dear music, you give me breath when I can't breathe, and you soothe me through all my fears. Near the tides in my ocean, the cells of my soul, we're all resonant bodies, like Maggie sang in her show. And when I shrink and shut down my wings, resist and mute my strings, your sound still finds my soul in moments of silence, sorrow and slow. And it's such an honour to hear you, get to know you and grow, an eternal longing to know all the depths of your notes. And I just can never thank you enough for existing. You're this gift that keeps eternally gifting, and I just love you so, so much, my dear friend. Sweet, sweet music. And I've been gliding underneath the oceans, barely breathing, barely real. And I felt like I was unwritten and unopened, barely breathing, I was barely real. And I was 10 feet underneath and I was choking, barely breathing, barely real. I need your waves of faith around me, please crash down, 'cause I'm barely breathing, barely real.
So that was the song Dear Music,
Yeah.
right? Which is the title track from the album, opens the album,
Yeah.
great start. What was that all about?
So that song starts off with a kind of love letter to music, just because it's been so important for me to have a thread to a sense of self through doing one of my passions. And I think I grew up without not too much sense of self, like a lot of women. You grow up bending and pleasing and serving the family initially, emotionally, and then you kind of lose your sense of self very quickly. But music's been that one thing that when I play and write, I am connected back to myself. So it was a appreciation love letter to music initially, and then a bit of Gaelic to connect me back to where I'm from, the island of Islay on the west coast of Scotland.
Yeah.
And then just how I felt before putting music out and holding everything in, just that I feel unwritten and unopened, just because I knew I had all this stuff I wanted to share and do and express in the world, and I wasn't doing it, and that's painful.
Yeah. But it's still a beautiful opening, like as to have that thread, like you say, music as that one kind of constant you can rely on. And we've shared a lot of songs between us and share a passion for music. You have an amazing way of expressing it. So there's 14 songs on this album. A common theme is love, I guess, and the question around love. Who you're gonna love? Love is a gift. What's kind of, I guess it's the same on that same topic, but is anything, what's that question around love? And
I think I've always been quite questioning, looked into different self-development things, read a lot, studied international relations originally, where you see a lot of human problems, and there didn't seem to be many answers to them.
Yeah.
And then in my late 20s, I came across Divine Truth on YouTube, and they talked about pretty much just very logical things about how we are not loving right, and it all made a lot of sense to me. And they talked about God, and I was brought up atheist. I didn't believe in God. And then I just started researching more in Divine Truth and into therapy and self-help and just different books and internet things. I looked at some different religions, kind of looked all around, and realised...
And love is the main thread, like understanding that seems to be the most important thing to get right, is that?
Yeah, like kind of realising how when we're in pain we can't love. But nobody was teaching us how to get out of pain. It was all distractions, numbing, avoiding, or even like meditating yourself out of your feelings, out of your body. It was all getting out of yourself. It's one of the reasons I love music, because it helps get you in your body and into your feelings and feeling your sensations of what's going on inside. But when I learned you can kind of let yourself feel, that helped me understand, I guess, that I didn't understand much about love, because I was always just running away from pain.
Yeah, me too. And that seems like a big theme in it. Who did you make this with? Because there's a lot of you got different instruments. There's you playing guitar, you playing piano, but there's also some really nice production in there.
Yeah.
You recorded this in the studio with?
Yes. So I just found Ben online, actually, just in a Google search. Ben Haynes.
Okay.
He is a local producer in Spondon, and he works in his studio just outside of his family home. And I was looking for somebody who I could just work with, who was like unjudgmental. I could kind of come in with big scary feelings to write about, and they wouldn't think, oh, what's wrong with her?
How did you know whether he was okay with that?
Well, initially I didn't, but then I was just scared and experimented, and he was so kind. Like, I remember sometimes I'd say like, oh, I was thinking about doing this, and I kind of do something, and then I'd be in my head thinking this is too much, and he'd always be like, no, finish that thought, or finish that phrase, or finish that song. Like,
so it encouraged the creative process in whatever it looked like, however messy.
One song was 28 minutes. So
well, that's great. What a guy you found to work
he's
with.
Really kind, and just unjudgmental, which I think is the most important thing when you're doing creative work or any work. Because as soon as you feel judged, you shut down. And I used to work in London, and there's quite the music industry can be quite like, oh, what sounds cool, what's on trend, and my music wasn't cool or trendy, so
Cool. So that's Ben. You recently became a music therapist.
Yep. Only a few months ago.
Only a few months ago. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How has that influenced what you've made here, or has what you're making here influenced you to do that?
I think a song that is on the kind of B side of the album, called "My Heart Was Never Bulletproof," is a song. Thank you.
Nice.
About a complicated relationship with my mum, and when I wrote it,
there's a video on that of you playing. It's on the YouTube, right? You playing the piano, same sweater on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a different jumper. Actually.
Oh, different one. Okay, yeah.
So it was a video and song made just about just being incredibly honest, and it's a topic that's kind of taboo in society.
It's very honest, and breaks the fourth commandment: honor your parents.
Yes.
Challenges that.
Yes, and when I wrote it, I experienced such a load of grief, kind of during and after writing it, that I then felt a lot better after, and also a lot of stresses and worries I was having with women, like female friends, I realised were kind of caused by my undealt with relationship with my mum. But it was kind of doubly complicated because when I started wanting to put it out, my mum got dementia. So I kind of really wondered, was it right to, was it not? But my mum she liked the truth, like she liked people being upfront and forthright, and so I kind of wondered about it, and it's probably why it's on the B side of the album.
I was going to say, why is it on the B side? It's such a good song, but lots of good songs.
And I think in the end, she might be proud that I'm trying to tackle generational pain in women on the female side of both of our families, where women have often just served men and not followed their passions. But that's kind of always been a quandary and a worry. Yeah.
How she feels about the whole thing.
Yeah. Because even though the song's very raw, I feel quite warm towards her, because I know she taught me to explore truth and say it as it is, and she had so many good qualities, and there is a part 2 that I'll put out at some point about all of her lovely qualities, because I think all of us have good and bad in us, but I think it's really important to explore how we were harmed in order to understand ourselves and not go on to do the same harm. And I was in the process of repeating my mum's life to a T, so I had to look at it. Yeah.
And you said throughout that process, writing the song, performing the song, you actually dealt with some of the feelings, and you feel better for it.
Yeah.
So part of putting it out is to potentially help.
Yeah, sorry, that was the question.
That's all right. We'll get there together. Writing that helped me experience cathartic release. And then I thought, a while after, I heard about music therapy, and I thought, whoa, imagine if I could encourage other people to experience the same thing through therapeutic songwriting and facilitate that. And that's definitely what I want to go and do now. Now I've got my album out of the way, I want to facilitate other people writing their stuff. Enough about me. Yeah. No, that's cool. And so that's, you live what you preached, essentially. You made songs that have helped you deal with grief.
Yeah.
You put them out there for other people to listen to and help them deal with grief. And then you also encourage other people, like you've helped me write poems about my childhood experiences that have helped me deal with some stuff. So it's very...
Hopefully, there is a worry and a danger of encouraging people to live and wallow in that emotion. So I don't want to do that. I want to encourage the feeling of it and letting it be felt through, so that you can go on to be kinder and gentler, rather than wallow and live in the rage and the blame, which I've been guilty of a wee period. So, but I don't want the music to encourage living in the emotions rather than feeling through them. But I think really people writing their own music and their own poetry and doing their own expression is going to be way more cathartic than them listening to mine. That's bad promotion, isn't it?
No, I think it's but, I think if people want inspiration for like where to start, I think you're leading the way, and to hear someone who writes music now with the understanding that I've learnt from you and studying some divine truth as well. When I listen to music, some music is just to get, like you say, get you out of emotions, and very few are very honest, like actually honest music, and not arrogant or in some way like self-aggrandizing or whatever. So it's very interesting to hear music like yours and be like, oh, this is actually just honest, and if I'm uncomfortable with it, then that's something in me, or is it actually, or if can I connect with something that I'm hearing being said in it. I'd like to know who your other inspirations are. What other artists?
Well, like, speaking of the honesty, it's Mary from Divine Truth who actually encouraged the raw honesty. I remember I sent her a song a few years ago, and I thought like, oh, she's going to think this is way too much. And she was like, no, be more. And that blew my mind. I was like, I can be more expressive.
Wow.
Like, I thought I was already like borderline, send her to the psych ward. And that goes on to another topic I'm very passionate about. I think because the world is afraid to feel, we've been shut down since we cried as babies. Our parents weren't taught to release their emotions. Their parents. we can see it's not working. We're all still at war. It's not good. And so I think even in the therapy world, working in mental health now, I can see a lot of women and men, but a lot of women are kind of labelled with different diagnoses if they're very emotional, rather than knowing, you can feel your emotions and it's not going to kill you and they will be felt, they can end, they can finish. I didn't know that. And obviously in the right way, and you've got to want to feel it. You can't be forced to at all. At all.
Yeah.
If you want someone to feel their emotions, that's not good. But a lot of very emotional, raw, honest music, I think, feels a relief for people, because in general society we're not allowed to be raw, honest, real, deeply emotional, because it's like, oh, she's a bit much, or what's wrong with him? He's not very macho, but actually it's very macho. So it's an interesting navigating that, working within the mental health system at the moment. I want to go on and do research in this field, but because there's a lot of drugs used to numb emotions, and they're super useful in many settings, very useful, but really letting out the pain relieves you from pain. So
simple, but we're not taught it growing up.
And I don't practice it all the time nearly enough.
No.
So
But it seems logical, and it's an experiment that we've both begun that journey. Some of my favourite songs from the album: He Gonna Love, Love Is a Gift, Anchor Me, Closer, Forceful. Others on there, Vulnerability, and others. I'm wondering, what are your? I know they're probably
you like
all
them
your.
all.
I know, I like a lot. Is there any that stand out to you, or any that you'd want to play right now?
Yeah, I think
Any more?
it's not necessarily. Well, my favourite to sing at the moment is Vulnerability, because I can go crazy. But my favourite in terms of message is probably Love Is a Gift.
Yeah, that's.
And I've
really
actually
nice.
changed the lyrics a wee bit since the album
Yeah.
to make it a bit less like woe is me and more like, oh no, we're all doing this, me included.
Cool.
So I'll play that.
Play us a bit of that.
Yeah. And it's very much about what often happens in family systems. What do you want me to be? And I'll be that. Or who do you think me to be? So I'll turn into that. My role was filling all the holes, but they were yours to own. I wasn't allowed my feelings or to live in my soul. But now I just need to grieve this instead of trying to control. Just need to feel it. That was never yours to own. But no one's got to love you. Love is a gift. And no one's got to love you. Love does not know ownership. No one's got to love you. Love is a gift. And no one's got to love you. I've just never understood it. I've known barter and control, not being allowed to express my soul. And I've known not trusting myself at all. And you judged every inch of me in all the areas you were harmed. Instead of owning our own experience, we attack each other's hearts. But now we need to just feel this. Just need to grieve this. Just need to feel this. when I only was taught to harden my temper. God, how do I stay soft in the face of this terror, by feeling it all with you as my protector? 'Cause my soul's been fighting between surrender and rage. Bring me your grace, 'cause I want to soften. It's in these words I pray, your liquid gold to fall like rain into my soul, and break these chains of pain around my neck. We're living in so much shame. This is a letter to me and to you, my Lord. This is a letter to mark where my hardness stops.
Thank you for that. Wow. You mentioned God there and a few times in the album. What's he mean to you, she mean to you?
Well, I grew up atheist, and then in my late 20s met a friend, Perry, who I worked with, who was into the teachings of divine truth and talking about God, and I just got very curious, and then over the next few years listened to it and checked out different religions too, did a lot of searching, seeking, praying, and then I experimented with what they call the Great Experiment, which was to kind of ask God, if you are there and if you exist, please could I receive some love? And after lots of experimenting and trying, I did feel some love from God and thought, like, gosh, God exists and I never knew that. It blew my mind.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
been
hard not to
big.
write about it once.
Yeah,
I imagine.
And you're like, oh, I had no idea.
No.
And it's sad because I didn't live to like any moral codes, really, growing up atheist. There wasn't hard and firm lines about what's loving and what's not. It was just a lot of selfish pursuits. Yeah.
So there is a definitive what's loving, what's not, right?
I think
there's a
so.
moral code that we can.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not always good at adhering to it, but I think we can ask our conscience if we're not sure, and generally we kind of know when we're not being loving, being kind. But sometimes we just don't know because it's all we've known, or we think what's good and right is good and right, but actually it could be harmful. So it's messy, and I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. 1% learning.
Yeah, that's it. There's quite a variety of instruments used, to switch the topic a little bit. Guitar, it's you playing guitar, you playing piano.
Sometimes Ben played a couple of tracks. He's better at guitar than me, so he played Forceful and co-wrote it, and he plays some of the MIDI keyboards. Yeah, sometimes.
A lot of like MIDI low, some of the sub stuff, like nice in there. But just for people that might not know, what's your background in music? Because you obviously can sing and you can play guitar and you can play piano pretty amazingly. Like, how have you come to that? Like, what's your journey been?
I'm pretty average at both guitar and piano, but I grew up singing in Gaelic, in a Gaelic choir, on the island I'm from in Scotland, and we did a lot. So when I was under 10, we sang quite a lot as a choir, and then I went away to school and I got just really stuck in with music. I loved it. Played the trombone.
You were at a boarding school, so
in central Scotland.
Was your first instrument?
Trombone was my first instrument, and then I just always loved singing, and at that place I got more into piano and writing a little bit, but I've never formally studied music. I took a lot of singing lessons in Edinburgh when I was at university, and started training classically and thought about becoming an opera singer. but I moved down to London and started getting my voice trained, and it just wasn't really for me. Very expensive, very long, and I don't know if I'm that keen on getting my voice that warbly.
It's not a priority for you.
No.
Yeah.
And I kind of came across like the folk scene in London, and fell in love with writing. I was like, oh, I couldn't think of anything better to do with my time.
Okay, then write music. That's wonderful. Yeah.
There's other things I like now more, but then I was
Yeah.
like, there's nothing better.
And now you're on the cusp of releasing this album.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it all? If I can
Oh.
sum it.
I just kick myself for different things where I think, because I'm starting my work as a music therapist within really acute mental health, I'm kind of seeing people a lot day to day really struggling. So it's hard to care as much as I used to.
Your priorities go back and
Priorities
forth
are changing
between.
a wee bit.
Yeah.
But I feel glad to get it out. So many things I could have done better. Very appreciative to Ben. I don't think I would have had an album out if I hadn't met him and he hadn't been so kind and chilled, patient. And I feel just eager to get going with my passions, which is like helping other people express themselves too. And I'd love to go in and help families encourage each other's expression, to really get to know each other and use music tools and techniques.
Because it breaks through sometimes.
Yeah, and families don't often know each other or
that's
what's
very
going
true.
on with the children or each other even.
And you can see it through tools like music therapy. And
So I'm excited, and I'm glad that I've done my album, because I'm planning on doing some work with women moving forward who work in the sex industry. And I think because I've expressed some of my raw honesty, I'm in a non-hypocritical position to know what I'm then asking
from them,
and what it feels like and how scary it is and how much it brings up. But
you've got examples to show them as well.
Got examples, but I've been very shocked how scared I felt. Very
putting an album out.
Yeah. Like I've
Exposed
loved
or
recording
like-
it. I don't even know yet. I think it's like really deep stuff. I think often as children, when we're our most raw, authentic, vulnerable selves,
we're
if
the most
that's
punished,
ever shut down or harmed, it feels like a dagger. And so then if you're going out into the world and putting out your raw, passionate, gentle nature that kind of got you harmed, you just feel terrified. And I
Makes
have,
sense.
as Ben knows, like come up against self-sabotage, find it really hard to to really get going with the promotion side.
Understandably so.
Yeah.
It's a tough part of it, and the way the mainstream's approach to that stuff is quite unloving often and very manipulative and over the top and forced in people's faces and stuff like that. So trying to do that in a loving way when you're fighting upstream against that, I can understand the challenge that you're facing there, but
I've not done it well.
but you know, you're learning, and it's
learning a lot.
You've got to experiment.
Learning a lot, and learning that it's okay to learn by mistakes, and like mistakes are okay. It's how we learn. Whereas I like would make a mistake and then I'd like beat myself up for 5 days and get nothing done. That's not a good way to learn.
Yeah.
Like just make a mistake, look at why you did it, get on.
Take action, keep it moving. Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah. Cool. So this is about to launch. What date? When can people hear this and where?
Friday the 18th of October. It'll be available on all
this Friday.
all streaming platforms. And then
Spotify, SoundCloud,
Apple Music, YouTube,
Tidal,
Tidal,
yeah, okay.
all of them.
Yeah.
all the
Don't know a
all the
single person
corporate
who's got
streaming
Tidal.
industries.
YouTube, okay, nice. YouTube. as well.
Somebody's going to get rich,
Yeah.
not me. I might make 3 pence.
Yeah.
But
This Friday 18th, yeah.
Friday 18th. And then on Saturday, I'm playing a show at Dubrek Studios.
In Derby, Dubrek Studios.
In Derby. And yeah, I'd love people to come down, and it'd be great to have anyone come down who hasn't really seen some of the live music scene in Derby. At Dubrek Studios, they actually put on some incredible musicians and artists from all around the UK, Europe. And live music venues are being hit so hard at the moment by cost of living, government changes, even post-COVID, young kids aren't going out as much. So they need supporting, and I noticed working at the hospitals and stuff, it's just not a go-to local music.
Yeah.
But I think it should. So I so encourage, even if you don't come to my launch on Saturday, to go. I'm bad. I'm like promoting, but
going on.
but like there's such good music down there, and it's a really lovely venue, and puts on great shows. But yeah, I'll be putting on hopefully a good show, fingers crossed, and there'll be a cellist playing with me.
Cool.
I'm going to have keyboards. Ben's going to play a couple of songs with me.
Awesome.
A friend's going to sing with me. It should be good.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And if anyone's not heard Bex live, I just really encourage them to do that, because it's one thing to hear it in the safety of your own space, but actually hearing it live hits different to the soul. And I think that's maybe how we're meant to experience music.
Yeah.
First
I'll
and
go
foremost.
crazy.
Yeah. And then that's your next. You're going to launch the album. That's that. You got any more shows after that coming up with that? If people want to know future dates, how would they find that out?
So I've got a Linktree and website
Which is
on so Fawn Music online. You can Google me. My website is fawnmusic.org.
Okay.
With the hope that all my future work in music therapy will go there too. And hopefully I'll be putting out some teaching packages for how to write your own songs, express yourself, all of that.
And Instagram is
fawn_music.
So that'd be the best place for more live updates.
Yes.
Fawn_music. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
No worries.
And I'll have some CDs being made at the show. My friend Venus is an artist. She's moved over from Iran. And she draws and paints beautiful art. So she's going to paint during the night, and then she's going to lino print CD covers, so they're personalised.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So you're going to be selling some CDs with live.
Sell CDs for that one car that's still got a CD
I
player.
know, that's it. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Tim,
No
for
worries.
just being a supportive friend
No
and doing
problem.
the interview.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Let us know if you've heard it, if you checked it out, if you're looking forward to hearing it in the comments. And maybe we'll do this again in a few years for your next album, or hopefully something in between comes up and we can share that too.
That'd be lovely.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Right. Cool.
Bye.
Yeah,